Okay, I'm back for step 2, which is actually making the paper mache and covering our animal form. So I hope you had a good time making your animal. Listen, I have to stop and let you know you're going to hear Willow barking in the background. You're probably going to hear my husband yelling at Willow to be quiet, as well as a drill. He's doing something in the backyard right now. So that's part of when you have to teach at home, figure things out at home. There's lots of distractions. So I'm down here in my dining room. I have my table covered with a plastic garbage bag. And this is exactly the same thing that I would do at school. I would get those big clear garbage bags that we have and cover the tables. We've used them before with different craft activities, just not paper mache yet. So we're going to do two things to start off. We're going to get our paper ready and we're going to get our paper mache paste ready. So let's get our mache paste ready first. And what you're going to need is a container to mix in. I'm using this glass container so that you can see as I mix, but any large bowl would work. Then we're going to pour the paste into one of our throw out kind of containers, our recyclable containers, because what happens with this paste is as it dries, it gets really, of course, hard and sticky because that's its job when we want to make our creatures. But this way I can just toss this out and I won't have to worry about it after. Today I'm going to use this glass bowl. So to start to make the paste, you need a bowl. You need 1 cup of white flour. Brown flour works as well. It's just, it doesn't work as well because it absorbs the water quicker. So 1 cup of white flour. And I'm going to move this down so you're just going to hear me but not see me as much. So I just poured that in there. And I've got warm water here. And warm water is important for 2 reasons. Warm water helps the mixture work together easier. Also, I don't know about you, but I don't like it when things are really cold on my hands. You guys know that about me. So I like it to be a little bit warm when I make it. So I am going to put in a cup of warm water. And I might need a little bit more depending on what it looks like. And there's one more thing I always add. And you don't need to. You'll see lots of recipes for paper mache. I've been doing this for a lot of years. And I always like to add about, this is a tablespoon of salt. And I just like, the salt helps with some of the odor because sometimes these can smell as they're drying. And I find that helps. You can also add white glue. There's lots of recipes for white glue. Sometimes I've added white glue. You don't need to. So let's save that for something else you're working on. You can use a whisk or a spoon. I grab my whisk and I'm just going to really kind of give this a move around. And I can tell already from looking at this, 1 cup of water, see how thick that is not enough. And usually I double that, so I'm going to get another cup of hot, warm water. Perfect. I'm going to put a little bit in to start, just to see how it looks. Okay, and I'm just going to keep working that in. Oh, and I put about a half cup more. So now I've got 1 cup of flour and 1.5 cups of warm water. And oh, that looks better. You want to stir it till it doesn't really have a lot of loose flour lumps. And at the bottom, mine has some dry flour. This whisk is a little too big for this bowl. So I'm just going to use my spoon and get the dried up. I don't know if you can see that, but that flour there is dry. Just going to get that mixed up. And I can just do this with a fork as well. You certainly don't need a whisk. Fork or a spoon. I think, see how runny that is? I'm pretty happy with that. If it's a little bit thinner, it's okay too. You don't want to be able to see right through it. You need it to look like white. It needs to look kind of like glue, which is exactly what it is. All right. So I've got my all made up. And what I'm going to do is just pour it into one of my favorite reusable containers, the plastic mushroom container. And I love these because the opening is wide. I have a lot of space to put my hands in, and then I can just throw it out after. Or you guys know, even in our classroom, I clean them out really well and use them again. It's just what I do. Okay, so we have our Mache paste all made. All right, and let me just get that spoon to show you again. The consistency, that's a big word. Consistency is kind of just, we can also use, we learned this word when we were doing some science experiments before, the viscosity of it. So just how well it pours and moves. Okay, so it's definitely gone from a powder and a liquid into, well, I guess it's kind of like a colloid solid. So there you go, movable solid. There we go. All right, perfect. Now, I hope you got that newspaper ready. I'm going to show you, these are the flyers. Let's see, this size flyer. I love these, they work really well. That's the newspaper that comes with the flyer. And what I do is I open it up, I rip it down the middle, and then you can get an adult to help you. I've got a big pile over here that I've already ripped up, but I was going to show you. All I need to do is go at the top and rip down. If I hold it and rip down, I'll get these really nice even strips, and you're lucky. In our class, what I always do is the day before we do paper mache, I always put out all these piles of newspaper, and you guys all have to learn how to rip it so we have it ready. Now those pieces are going to be about this long, but hey, you don't have to use it when it's this long. If you've got a little tiny spot, like when I start to cover my bird, what I could do is just rip it in half. And having some small pieces is really important because it makes it easier to fit around things. And you can even rip them smaller as you're doing it. You have to kind of play around with what works around the form that you made, okay? So I have my piles here. I'm going to get started. What I'll do is you're going to hear my voice, but you're going to see my hands, okay? Because I haven't been able to figure out a way to do this any better. So this is the best way I've figured out how to do it. So here's my bird, okay? And all I'm going to do, I'm going to take a strip, I'm going to dip it in. Now listen, this is the part where you're going to get dirty. So you got to have all these things ready. And somehow I'm going to have to be touching my computer. Don't tell Mr. Morrison. I'm going to have to be touching it with my dirty hands a little bit. All right, I'm going to rip that in half a bit. So you can see I dipped it in, and then I used my fingers like this, and I slid them down the whole length so that the paper mache is covering the paper, and you can see it's changed the color of it. It's now darker than it was. You can tell that one's white and one's dark. You can tell that variation, right? And what I'm going to do now is just smooth it on. And I'm going to take a few pieces. I'm going to do a bit of this. And what I want to do is overlap the pieces a little bit. And I don't want to put them all in the same direction. So for example, if I were to just go around the belly and then get another piece and go around the belly and another piece and go around the belly, I wouldn't have added any strength across. So this is just like when we were talking about how buildings use triangles. When architects build, they use triangles because they're a strong form. This is the same. I want to crisscross, do things on the diagonal. When you think about it, diagonals are like triangles, the way they cross over. And what I want to do is, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to crisscross this way and smooth it down. Okay? And you'll see, once you start getting a bunch on, it'll start to really, you'll be able to really see. Now I've got a little spot there. I've just got this little piece. I just want to stick that on. And I actually have enough paste right on my fingers just to put that on. Okay. I know this part's boring for me showing you, but it's just, gosh, if only I knew how to fix this video so I could move ahead and move back. I'm sure I could figure it out. All right. Okay. So, an adult, I'm sure you've got an adult in your house that's at some time had a kooky teacher that did paper mache with them when they were little. All right. And so you just want to make sure that you smooth them all over. Now, I'll see here. Can you see how there's space there? There's a gap between the base, my form, and the paper that I've put on. See, these are the gaps we want to avoid. So what I want to make sure I do is put another piece of paper over top of that edge to hold that down. Every time I have a gap like that, what happens is that's a piece of the paper mache that is not actually helping to strengthen the outside of my form, but it's giving a spot where it's going to be really difficult to paint it. Okay? And that gets harder when you get near skinny spots or awkward pieces like the tip, like that angle of the tail, how it curves there. But if you just take your time, you'll get it. And you'll get to be a pro at this because we aren't just doing this once. I'm not just doing this right now and then I'm done. Okay, I'm going to rip a little piece off. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, can you see how I've started to cover it? Okay. And this is just one layer, and that's what I want to do. And I'm not going to go over it too many times. They're going to overlap, but I'm not going to go fill it completely once and then fill it over a couple of times. I'm going to wait for it to dry. And that's why I said this is one of those jobs where it takes a little bit of time. You have to really do it in steps. All right, and now I'm up near my bird's head and her beak. So I'm going to go some different angles. There we go. And I'm going to push up with my fingers because my fingers are fantastic tools. And I can see a piece is starting to come off, so I'm going to squeeze it a little bit. The great thing about paper mache is you can't hurt it. Now I'm looking on the outside here and I see I've got a lot of extra paste. So